Hello students, we'll be continuing with module number 5, statistical techniques, curve fitting topic. Okay, last video I have completed the curve fitting of linear type, which is degree 1 curve fitting. Today's video will be for curve fitting, that is degree 2, also known as quadratic or parabolic. Okay, I repeat, it's parabolic or quadratic or degree 2 curve fitting. Okay. Techniques will remain almost the same. Like here, there are some tricky questions, and the second degree questions are more often compared to degree 1 questions. Okay. So what is the tricky part here? They will give you the equation in the question itself. So let's observe this. Like y is equal to a plus bx is already given to me in the question. What if I change the equation, or the equation given to me is changed? Will the same normal equations work? No. The answer is no. The same normal equations which were existing for y is equal to a plus bx plus c square will not work if I change this equation. Okay. So you need to understand the technique of forming the normal equations and then applying this. Okay. So let's understand this. The question has already given us to fit the parabola, which equation is given. So since y is equal to a plus bx plus cx square, we call this as equation number 1. We will write down the normal equations. So normal equations are given by, let's recap the steps. Step number 1, you apply summation throughout. Okay. So step number 1, we apply summation. So y gets summation. A, which is a constant, comes out. 1 ka summation n times will give you n. B times summation x, because B is a constant, it comes out. C times summation x square. Step number 2, you multiply throughout by x, and then you apply the summation. So why are we multiplying by x over here? Because equation is y is equal to something. If the equation was x is equal to, you would multiply by y. Okay. So in this case, we'll be multiplying throughout by x. So this gives me summation xy is equal to, so let's understand, we are multiplying equation number 1 throughout by x. Okay. So it becomes ax. When I apply summation to ax, a constant out, summation x. B gets a x square, so b times summation x square. C becomes x cubed. Are you clear till here? Once we get this, it's not enough. Why? Because this time we have 3 unknown variables, that is A, B, and C. If we have 3 variables, we require 3 equations to solve them. So how do we get the third equation? Again, multiply by x. So that means I'll be actually multiplying by x squared. So if I'm multiplying equation 1 by x squared, I will be getting summation x squared y. And of course, afterwards, we apply summation. A gets multiplied by x squared, so A summation x squared. B becomes x cubed. And C gets coefficient, or C becomes a coefficient of x raised to 4. So now understand, these are your normal equations. 3 normal equations because we have 3 variables, A, B, and C. Okay. Now in these normal equations, leaving A, B, C, every other value you will have to input. Every other value. So let's create a table and try and find out these values. Okay. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'll try to put up these values on the page where I'm going to create the table so that we don't need to keep coming back again and again. Okay. I'm going to use Excel here. You will have to use, okay, let me just click outside. Okay, yeah, the equation was there. Fine. So I'm going to use Excel. You will have to use, okay, there's a summation which is missed out. You'll have to use a calculator to calculate each of these values. Okay. And I've brought in these values of x and y from the table which was given in the question. Look at the table in the question. We had a horizontal table, x having 1 to 9 values and y having 2, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 11, 9, 10, 9. Can check this here as well. I've made a vertical table. So now let's look at the equation one at a time, and then accordingly we'll calculate the table. Table construct करते जाएंगे, ठीक है? So if you look at the equation, first value जो आपको चाहिए equation में वो चाहिए summation y. Summation y means the total of y. So I'll use here the sum value. You will use your calculator to just add the values of y. Okay. So I'll be doing the sum of all the values till here. And the value for summation y comes out to be 74. Okay. So that's my first value which I've got here. Next we require n. N is the number of observations. So if you look at the number of observations, there are 9 observations. So we don't need to calculate that separately. Next you require summation x, means you'll have to take a sum or the total of x column. So we'll use your values from your calculator. Okay. The next value which you require is x square. So x raised to 2, that's x square. Of course, you'll multiply the values. So you can use your calculator or do it orally, no problem. Because I'm working on Excel, I'll try to use some shortcut. So require the total of x squared. So I'll just pull this here. I get the total of x squared. Next equation. So equation number 1, we got all the values. Second equation, we require xy ka summation. So I need to calculate xy. So let me calculate x multiplied by y. So I will first multiply x with y. And for each of the equations, and last one of course should have been total. So I would bring, okay, so that's 421. That's the summation of xy. Next value again, summation x, which we have calculated. Summation x square we have calculated. We now require x cube, so that's going to be x raised to 3. So I'll be multiplying x 3 times. You could directly take the cube. And I'm going to do it for the entire 9 observations of x. And again, I'll be doing the total of these values. So that's your x cube. Lastly, we require, not lastly, second last. So x square y is also what we require. So x square into y. X square is present in column number 2, column number 3. So I'll multiply column number 3 with column number 2. So that gives me x square y. I need to do it for all 9 observations. Again, we need to calculate the total of this. And now lastly, x raised to 4 as per the last equation. So x raised to 4 would be, I can take square of x square, or you can multiply x 4 times. All 9 observations. Again, the total. Yeah. It's not showing the value because the value is bigger. Okay. So we now have this table, and this part over here are the totals. These are the totals which we will be using in the equation. So let's solve the equation here itself because we have the equations here. Okay. So let's substitute the values in the first equation. That's summation y. Summation y would be 74. Okay, let me okay. So 74 a into n, that's going to be 9a, 45b, and 285c. I'm just putting values from the table into this. Okay. So that's all I'm doing here. These are the values which I'm substituting. Okay. I hope that's clear. Fine. Moving further, second equation. We have summation xy, that's going to be 421, equal to a times summation x, which is going to be 45a. Then you have 285b, and you will have 2025c. Lastly, it's square y is 2771, which is 285a, 2025b, and 15333c. So we have three equations. We'll be using the scientific calculator to solve them. This time the equation which we're going to use is going to be the second type. So let's substitute the values. Remember, 74, 421 and 2771 will go in last. So we'll have 9, 45, 285, 74, 421 will go last. Okay, that's why I prefer to write them first, like on the right hand side itself. Okay, 285, 2025, 421, then 285, 2025, 15, 333, and lastly 2771. So my value of A is negative 13 over 14. Then let's see what the value of B. 3 point, okay. Is it not going to come in the SG format? Okay. So B is going to be 3.5232. And lastly, C we'll check. Negative 247 divided by 924. So once you get these values, go back to your equation number 1, which was a required quadratic one. And in that equation, let's substitute the values. So therefore, the required parabolic curve or parabola is y equal to negative 13 over 14 plus b was 3.5232 and c was again negative, right? Negative 247 divided by 924. So this is your required parabola. Also, the question doesn't end there. They ask you to estimate y when x is equal to 10. Estimate y when x is equal to 10. So in this equation, you put x is equal to 10. You put x is equal to 10 here. So what do I get here? I'll have to go to the computational mode. So I'll have negative 13 over 14 plus 3. Okay, if I multiply by 10, okay, I'm putting x 10 there. So it becomes 35.232. Negative 24700 because I'm multiplying by 100 divided by 924. So the answer is 7.5718. 7.5718. That's the value of y. Now you can just observe, this is just something which may help you, not always. When x is 10, this is what we're trying to do, We're trying to predict the value of y. So 1 to 9 x की value हमारे पास है, y की values है. what will be the expected value? That's what we are trying to find. So this is the value which lies in the range. So this should be correct. Okay. This may be correct. Not always, like, this the correct answer always. I hope this question on second degree is clear with everyone. So there were two parts to the question: fit the parabola, and second part was find the value of y when x is given to you. So we found the parabola, and then we found the value of y when x is given to you. Okay. Now in this case, one more thing that happens, or one more way of asking the question is, they tell you fit a parabola. They don't give you this equation. They don't give you the equation. Okay. They ask you to fit the parabola and estimate y is equal to this. Now, if that is a question, should I take x is equal to something or y is equal to something? How do I determine? Like, you can have this equation also, which is a parabola, and this equation also, which is a parabola. So now here, understand which value is given. If x is given and you have to find y, you will use this equation. If the equation is not given, okay? Of course, as an alternative, you can use this also, ax squared bx plus c, whichever. But y, if you have to find y, use the equation y is equal to, okay, and x will be on the independent side. Here in this case, y should be given and you are expected to find x. Then the equation will be of this category, or ay square by plus c. Again, as I said, as your equation changes, your normal equations will change. I have shown you the technique for the normal equations. Just a quick recap of the technique here. If I was dealing with this equation, what will be my first normal equation? Entire summation. There's no plus here, it's equal to here. All the constants out, and C will have an N. Now, because it's x equal to, I'll multiply throughout by y. xy I'll get a summation yq, b summation y square, and c gets a summation y. Lastly, I'll multiply again by x because there are three variables. I'll have three normal equations. So I'll get x square y, a summation y raised to 4, q, and c square. I hope this is clear. How to find the normal equations. So question to question, the normal equation can change. X equal to type of question was asked in 2024 May paper. This category 2024 May paper. And many students missed out. They took this equation and they started their normal equation and they wrote the final answer, but then they lost their marks. Okay. So I hope you all won't make this same mistake and you have understood this very well. We'll take one more example, which is a little tricky one asked in the paper. Now, why is this tricky? Again, a question is to fit a second degree parabolic curve. No mention of x equal to लेना है या y equal to लेना है, कुछ नहीं बोला है. Why is it tricky is because of the numbers, like 1974, 1975, and so on. So if you look at that, and if you keep taking the powers of it, it will become very, very big. And generally, we don't use a x equal to, we use a y equation. Okay. So suppose I was to put y equal to a plus bx plus cx square over here. Okay. So suppose this is my second degree parabolic curve which I wanted to fit here. Okay, let me call this as equation 1. So we'll again write down the normal equations, and because the normal equation down here, I'll copy them to save time. And I hope you guys know how to write them, right? So yeah, these are the normal equations. And once we get these normal equations, let me call this as equation 2. We'll make the table here with all the values. Let me paste the equations here as well so that we know the columns. So that's the equations here. Now let's observe, if I was to take x square, x cube, of course, Excel will do it, calculator will do it, but then it become very, very, very big. So what do we do here is, we do something different. That's what we do. We assume a capital X, which is equal to, okay, let me increase the font size. Okay. So we assume a capital X, which will be equal to small x minus, say, one of the values of x column. Generally, we take the middlemost value because there are 8 observations. I am free to take either the fourth or the fifth. You can choose. Suppose I take the fourth, that is 1977. You can also take the fifth value, that won't be an issue. Okay. So from each of these values, we will subtract 1977. So if I subtract, I get first value is -3, then -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and the last value is 4. Okay, each of the values of small x, I'm subtracting 1977. Y remains the same. Y remains the same. Now understand what is going to happen here. My original equation, which was y is equal to a plus bx plus cx squared. I'll have to write everything now in the terms of capital X. I cannot use the small x because for calculation purposes, we are using capital X. Are you getting this? So I'm replacing all the small x over here by capital X. We are going to work on capital X in this particular question, and then we'll bring back small x. So these are your normal equations. This is your original equation. So all of that, what we are going to do here is we are going to work on capital X. So let's start working. In this case, we require the total of y, starting with the first normal equation. Then we also require the total of x. I do one thing. You can see the total of x itself is going like, quite big. I'll just bring this total row every day. So whatever we calculate, it's going to get total. Okay. So this is the total row. Okay. So observe which are the values we need to find. We need to find summation of y, summation of x we already found. We require now capital X square. We require now capital X square. So let's calculate capital X square. Understand there's a difference between capital and small x. So this is going to be the square of this number. Okay. And we'll be doing this for all the 8 observations. And you can see accordingly your value changes. The next is capital X times small y. Capital X times small y. Okay, I should have written it here. So this should be small y. Okay, so capital X times small y. That's going to be the multiplication of capital X with small y. You're using a calculator to calculate these values. Okay, all the 8 values calculated. Next, in the same row, I'll require x cube. All other values are calculated. And again, x cube is for the capital X. So I can have x multiplied 3 times capital X, or I can have capital X square into x, which will give me x cube, of course. And for all 8 values, so that gives me the total again. Then we have capital X square into small y. So capital X square is 9, 4, all of those, multiplied by small y. Again, you'll have to use a calculator to find all these values. Okay, you can see the values becoming bigger. And lastly, we require capital X raised to 4. Capital X raised to 4, which could be the square of the square. So I'll take the square of the square. And calculate its total here. Now, once we get these values, we are supposed to substitute them in the equation. Let's substitute them in the equation. So I'm going to start with the equation, keeping this on the right-hand side of me, okay? These on the right-hand side. So we have A times N. N is 8, so 8A. B times summation capital X. Capital X summation is 4. C times summation capital X square, which is 44, is equal to summation Y, which is 289. Next, A times summation X, which is going to be 4A. B times summation X square, which is going to be 44B. C times summation X cube, which is 64C, equal to capital X into Y, which is 418. Then you have A times summation X square, which is going to be 44A. Then 64B. Lastly, raised to 4, that's 452C. You can see the numbers have become quite small. And then you have capital X square into Y, which is going to be 1746. Now, once we get these values, we'll use a scientific calculator on the equation mode with 3 variables, x, y, z. Input the values. First value is 8, 4, 44, 289. Again, 4, 44, 64, 418. Then 44, 64, 452, 1746. So the first value is 6107 divided by 168. The values may not be very easy. Write them on the PowerPoint itself. If we convert it to decimal, it's 36.3512. So my y turns out to be 36.3512. Plus b times. So b is going to be, again in decimals, 7.2083. But these are capital here. That's what we had discussed. And lastly, c. So again in decimal form, negative 0.6964. So negative 0.6964 into capital X squared. Now what you require is a value or the answer in small x, correct? You require the value in small x. Okay, these also you will have to change them into capital X into Y. Means basically you start here with capital itself. Okay. Your required equation would be y sum L times small x, or sorry, L mx and nx square, something like this. Okay, in small alphabets. So what do we do here? 36.3512, 7.2083 into capital X. Let's look at the table. Capital X, what we had assumed here was this value. Correct? This is what we assumed for capital X. I have just highlighted the value, small x into minus 1977. So I'll place it. Small x minus 1977. Negative 0.6964 into small x minus 1977. The whole square. So we'll continue on the next page. So now y becomes, let me copy this there. Okay. Okay. So 36.3512, 7.2083 times x minus, let's move to the computational mode, 7.2083 into 1977. That becomes 14,250.8091 minus 0.6964 into, now the whole square, okay? So x square minus 2 times 1977. So 1977 into 2, 3954 plus 1977 square. So can you see? Squares were so big, 3908529. Now multiply the values and open the brackets. At the same time, I'll add these two values, this and this, or rather subtract. Okay. So I have 7.2083x. Then I'll be subtracting. Okay. Also at the same time, I'll be subtracting this multiplication. Okay. So we make it together. We have 36.3512 minus 14,250.8091 minus 0.6964 into 1977 square bracket. So this is the value, negative 27361. .054. This is your constant term. Okay. Now the x squared term has a negative 0.6964 x squared. Also, the x term needs to be subtracted. So let's subtract that as well. And I'll rectify it here. So 7.2083 minus 3954. So 3946 point this 7917, and this is negative. This is what my y is. This is the parabolic or second degree equation which fits the form. I hope this is clear now with you all. No difficulties here. Okay. So there'll be few more equal questions of the similar category in the paper. You can check them and try solving them. All the best. So this completes your topic on second degree or parabolic curve or quadratic curve fitting. Entire curve fitting is completed now.